Hello and welcome to the Devoted Outdoorsman Podcast.
Hello, Podcast Nation. I hope you guys are having an awesome week and you're ready for this week's episode of the mini-series Archery Talk with Haas. This week on the Archery Talk with Haas, we're going to talk a little bit with Haas about a couple questions we got about arrow setups, some of the upcoming events that Haas is excited about, and we're just going to kind of BS a little bit. So I hope you guys enjoy this week's podcast. Let's get this thing started, man. So you were telling me the other day about a turkey that you've been kind of scouting and you're kind of excited to get on.
Yeah, I've been pretty excited. So we got some property over there where the factory's at for Ethics Archery, and I think it's a total of right around 25 or 30 acres. But it hasn't been hunted at all, if at all, for like 10 years or so. Been a few deer taken on it, but nobody ever really turkey hunts on there. So the boss man kept telling me, you know, when I was coming out there, the turkeys are everywhere. I hear him talking about it every day. So I get up there, and he wasn't kidding, man. There are a bunch of turkeys out there. So I decided to grab my binos and went and did a little bit of scouting, see what kind of quality turkeys he had out there. And he's got some giants. One in particular, I'm going to try and get after him Tuesday afternoon and Wednesday. Hopefully I can get him, because I've never seen a turkey that actually drags several inches of beard on the ground, to the point where I was watching him for about an hour. I was watching him chase a bunch of jakes around and chasing a few of the hens in the field, and I watched him trip twice because he stepped on his beard. So I'm hoping to be able to put that one down just to see how big he is.
Yeah, man. So no doubt, anytime you get a tom that's cruising around with a beard that big, it's definitely going to get you excited. Oh
yeah, you know, and I've been lucky enough to take one other turkey before. I've never actually targeted turkeys, like went turkey hunting. I always just bought an extra tag because seasons overlapped in Arizona at one point, and I did get lucky and see one with a tag in my pocket. So I don't really consider that a turkey hunt. So this is actually going to be my very first legitimate turkey hunt. So I'm actually pretty excited about it, especially when I can go out there. And I've been out there on multiple occasions now, and in the morning they're in one location, in the afternoon they're in one location, and they're both on the property there, and you can almost set your clock by it. I mean, they're there every single day. So I think the opportunity is going to be pretty high success rate. Is what I'm hoping for. But you know how turkeys get, man. You can't really count your chickens before they hatch, and they always find some way to booger things up. So we'll see what happens.
So you kind of got them on a pattern, at least, so you kind of have an idea of what they're doing on the property, so you don't get out there and just be, shooting in the dark.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, no, I mean, I know exactly where they're roosting. I know, about what time they fly down every day, depending on weather. These things don't seem to really care much about any kind of wind direction or anything like that. As long as it's not super, super windy, they still do their thing. I mean, they were out there last time in the pouring rain, and they were still out there chasing hens and beating up on the jakes. So I don't really think weather's really going to have too much of an effect. It's just time, and they seem to be there almost every day. So I'm hoping it all comes together. I'll definitely be posting some pictures. You can bet that if I get him.
Well, I hope you get him so you can get some of those pictures out there, because I'm ready to see this sucker.
Yeah, I'm hoping I can get him, but I'm going to be honest with you, man. So there's probably 5 or 6 big toms, good shooters that run around with him. And I'd like to take the big one. I can take 2 turkeys, so I'll have 2 opportunities. But first mature tom that gives me an open shot, I mean, I got to take him. I don't have too many under my belt, so I'm going to take what opportunity I get. I just hope that I can get him to come in. As a matter of fact, I have a video that I posted on my Facebook of some turkeys, and he's one of them, and I was actually filming him with my cell phone from about 40 yards away, shut the video off, and I quickly downloaded a turkey call on my phone just to see what would happen. I hit that turkey call, and he literally he left the hens, walked through 40 yards of woods, and stood 10 yards in front of me and just looked at me like I was he didn't know what I was. And then he calmly turned around and walked back to the hens again. So there's definitely no pressure there.
Well, hopefully you'll get out there and you'll lay one of these mature toms down, and you'll get a kind of a good story to tell. So next time we're on the podcast, we can hear about that.
Oh, absolutely. And, I'm going to be using my same heavy setups and everything. I got some new Van Diemen Broadheads coming in, and it looks like there's a possibility that Ethics Archery is going to become a dealer for them as well. He's actually a dealer for us. He's a distributor over in Australia for us. So we're going to kind of reciprocate a little bit. He's got a great quality head at a great price. As a matter of fact, on the last podcast, we talked about arrow setups a little bit and proper broadhead choice. And you don't have to go to like an extremely expensive head to get a quality head. This definitely fits that bill. I mean, these things, I think we're going to, if we end up getting them in, which we'll know in the next couple of weeks, I think we're going to sell them for like $35 for 3 of them. And they're super, super strong heads, built correctly, built for split and bone. I mean, this is the perfect entry level, but not just entry level. I think it's just an all-around good head. So we'll see what that does to a turkey.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. What kind of setup you were going to use for these turkey? I didn't know if you were going to use any of those fancy turkey broadheads, because I've seen a lot of those on the market, and I'm not really sure how the durability on a lot of them would be when they have, like I saw one the other day at Bass Pro that was like a 4-inch diameter cut. And I don't know how, flimsy those blades are or anything like that, because I don't really have any experience with the archery turkey hunting.
Well, now we actually have, like we talked before about the spinning inserts, we have those. That's a perfect application, especially for the decap style, like the guillotines, the solid decaps. Those types of broadheads that are made to actually like decapitate the bird. That's a perfect pair with the spinning insert in those. But if you're talking about the big mechanicals that just have like the giant 4-inch cut, like a 2-blade, I have no experience with those. I kind of stay away from mechanicals in general just because, I can understand where the thought process behind one of those. Especially in a turkey, because very small kill zone on a turkey. A lot of people are actually kind of a little bit misguided as to where to shoot a turkey in the body if you're going to shoot it in the body. And it's really high and forward. And a lot of people, they aim a little bit too low and a little bit too far back. So having that extra cut, I could see where it would be a benefit, but I don't have any personal experience with them. And as far as how flimsy the blades are, or, how they fly, or if they're actually opening the way they're supposed to, I couldn't actually talk about that. Maybe that's something I need to look into and just kind of play with them. That way I can give some answers on that.
Yeah, definitely. Because I've seen some pretty crazy videos online of the decapping kind, where it's hitting these turkeys and their heads are just coming right off. And, they're really cool and interesting videos to watch. I'm not going to say it's a bad product because I don't know anything about it. I just feel like those blades would probably be pretty flimsy.
Well, the decap style ones are extremely good, especially the solid decap made by Solid Broadheads. It's a TOG product. And, those things are built like tanks, man. And they're super, super sharp when they come off out of the package and stuff. They do fly really well, considering that it's a decap style broadhead. Now you gotta have the proper arrow set up for those. You gotta have super stiff spine, be able to really correct that flight. Because they are kind of difficult to tune. If you don't know what you're doing, it's an easy process to learn. You just have to kind of go through the steps. But once you actually shoot these things and you get them dialed in and you get a turkey into, 15, 20 yards, it's a great opportunity to, not ruin any meat. And it's not necessarily designed just to cut the head off, because all you have to do is hit that turkey from the head down all the way on the neck, anywhere in there, and you hit it even just with one blade. Those things are so sharp, it'll lay it open pretty good, and they bleed out really fast. So it's not necessarily designed just to take it off, but to just develop a big enough and a deep enough laceration to the throat area, because there's so many vitals that are right there in that neck. They bleed out really quick.
Well, you learn something new every day, man. I've seen them, and I've always thought they were kind of cool. I just never really looked into them because, like I said, I don't do much turkey hunting, but I try to get into it at least once every year.
Yeah, like I said, this will be my first time actually targeting them, so I'm kind of excited to see what I can do. I mean, I've got a real opportunity, so I think that's what's really gotten me excited about it, and hopefully I can do a lot of learning with these turkeys.
Yeah, man. So you're also telling me that next week you have an archery tournament coming up. So are you pretty excited and stoked up about that one?
Oh yeah. I've been trying to get ready for that. I've been doing a lot of tuning and a lot of work on the bow, and going through using my shot trainer every day in the truck. If you guys hadn't had a chance to go check that out, I think you posted a link up to it. Definitely go give those guys a look, man. The thing is invaluable, especially when you're a tournament shooter. Like right now it's 35-mile-an-hour winds. Nobody's going to go out and shoot in that on purpose, right? Well, not very many people. I do with my hunting bow, but that's for a whole different purpose. But for target, obviously you're not going to really mess with that too much, especially when you're trying to get sight tapes right and, get your sights all dialed in where they need to be. So I love using that shot trainer, and it helps immensely, man. But yeah, I've been just working on all that, and I think I got her dialed in where it needs to be. And, I'm going to go out and see what I can do this next weekend. We're going to be over in Alabama, or no, I'm sorry, this is going to be Georgia, Augusta, Georgia is this one. There's so many tournaments that kind of get mixed up. Yeah, we're going to be in Augusta, Georgia for the ASA Pro-Am. Which is usually covered. All of these are covered by Bow Junkie Media. So if you guys ever want to kind of get a glimpse on what an ASA Pro-Am looks like, this is where all the pros come out, amateurs as well. They have different classes for everybody. And, you can go out and you're going to shoot 40 targets. You typically split up between 2 different days. So 20 targets per day. And depending on your class, will tell you whether or not you're shooting known, unknown, that kind of thing. But it's, you get 3,000 to 5,000 archers in one location for a 4-day weekend. I mean, what's better than that, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely going to be a fun time for you. I bet, just the camaraderie of you being around all the other archers and everything like that. And then just the competition. So, I mean, I'm sure you'll have a great time, and hopefully you play pretty good.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, man. I mean, and the best thing about these tournaments, man, is, a lot of people have a little bit of a misconception, because most of the time when you talk tournament, it's you against everybody else. But archery is a little bit different. I've never really looked at it as I'm shooting against somebody else. I'm shooting against myself. So I'll set a goal in mind, and I'll train for that goal. Now, that goal may not be first place. That goal might be because last tournament I had a little bit of a malfunction, equipment malfunction, or a form breakdown, a mental breakdown, whatever it may have been that kind of hindered me. I'll work on that. And so if I go out there, like last time, I think I was in 25th or something like that. So I didn't place anywhere high enough, for a paycheck or anything, but this week here, I'm going to shoot for doing better than 25th place. I had a mental breakdown. My mental game kind of fell off towards the end of the second day, and it got the better of me. So I've been really working on my mental game and working on my form. And if I can go out there and keep my head together and stay on my mental program that I'm working, it doesn't matter if I come in last place. If I beat that mental aspect that beat me at the last tournament, then that's a win for me.
Well, I wish you good luck, and I hope that you do better than, just get a new personal best, if that's what you're shooting.
Yeah. Always,
Yeah, for sure, man. So, we last, what have been, like Monday, I think it was, or might have been Sunday, I posted a comment thing up on Facebook asking people, hey, we're going to do another archery talk with Haas. What are some questions you guys had? So, if you'll give me a second, we'll go get into those questions and see if we can answer them for these guys. Give me one second. Let me figure out how to get there without messing anything up. I think it was Monday.
Yeah, so for the rest of the guys, for anybody else listening, guys, gals, kids, moms, dads, grandmas, it doesn't matter. Anybody who's into archery, and that listens to the podcast here, start posting some questions, some topics that you guys want us to talk about, man, and that way we can get a whole list of them together and get as much information out there that's going to be helpful for you guys, that you guys are actually seeking. So the best way to do is ask the question, be as specific as you can possibly be with the equipment, draw length, draw weight, that kind of thing. As much information as you can give, the better. That way I can be a little bit more accurate in answering questions. But definitely start taking part in that, and because that's what's going to help you guys out the most.
All right. So the first question we have is from Joshua Paz. He said, "What arrow setup would you suggest for a bow that's set at 50 to 60 pounds?" And then below that, he said he has a 29-inch draw, and as of right now, he's shooting fixed blade Muzzies, 125-inch or 125 grain broadheads.
Okay,
so
I'm going to assume that he's talking about just a general idea based on his setup, and he does have kind of a preferred broadhead. So in that 125 grain range. So my biggest thing would be, let's bump up the FOC. I'm a big FOC guy. Not only is it going to help you with tuning, it makes it a little bit easier. Arrow flight is a lot easier to get really good arrow flight out of a higher FOC arrow. But you're going to maximize the effectiveness and the penetration on the animals. So at a 50 to 60 pound bow, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I would go, most shops are probably going to, recommend like a 400 grain arrow, but that's also with a standard insert. So, obviously, I work for, and I'm also a designer. You guys have heard me talk about Epidose Archery. We're a component company. So obviously I'm going to go that route because we do have solutions for any arrow build out there. So obviously, I'm going to recommend going to our website at ethicsarchery.com. And so the products that I'm typically going to be, talking about when it comes to inserts and field points and stuff is going to be our products. Now, with that setup, I'm going to assume is more than likely going to be a standard ID arrow. So it's going to be like your gold tip XT hunters and, your standard diameters, right? So I would probably go with a 100 grain insert. Get that FOC up so you don't have to change your broadhead. So stick with the 125 grain. When you throw that 100 grain up front, it's going to boost your FOC because right now you're probably looking at about a 12 to 18 grain insert, depending on which arrow you're shooting, what manufacturer. So I would probably just start by bumping up your weight. So the easiest way to figure out how heavy you can go without losing performance would be to get a very diverse package of field points. Now we also, at Ethics Archery, you can find that. It's called a sample pack. So you're going to get a field point from 85 grains all the way to 300 grains. So, and everything in between in, 25 grain increments. So the easiest way to do that is throw your 100 grain insert in, start with an 85 grain, and shoot your bow. Don't concentrate on accuracy. Don't concentrate on any of that. Just look at your arrow flight. So obviously with I-85, it's going to be a little bit on the low side, or a little bit on the stiff side. So you keep adding weight until you find where it's just flying like a dart. You can barely even see it going through the air because there's just no movement. That's what you're looking for. And eventually you're going to see when you go up to the next size, you're going to start getting some wiggle room within that arrow. You're going to get some erratic arrow flight. That tells you that you've either broken down the spine too much or vice versa. So you're going to want to go back to that size or field point weight that gave you that really good arrow flight. It's the easiest way to tune an arrow as far as arrow flight. Start there and bump up your FOC, and I think you're going to be extremely happy with results compared to, and that's without getting too technical as far as a full arrow build, but just finding the heaviest insert that you can find that's going to go in there, which currently is going to be about 100 grains, which is what we offer, and throw some field points on there and see what your arrow likes and go from there.
So it's more of a, getting the right weight setup in general. So like what you were saying, you go ahead and get the insert, put that on there, and then maybe one of your sample packs, or maybe there's another place, but we'll stick with that. We'll get one of the sample packs from Ethics and get that put on your arrow and just shoot until you see your arrow fly like a dart, where it's straight line. There's not a lot of wobble or anything like that with it.
Yep. Yep, it's the easiest way to figure out what that cam system on your bow, what your draw length, all of those things are factors without getting too technical. That's the best way to figure out what that bow likes, because you want to build the arrow to the bow. And my basic recommendation for most people is build the heaviest arrow you can, where you're going to get the best arrow flight possible, and concentrate that weight in the front for FOC. So without buying like an FMJ or something that's got a higher GPI or grains per inch overall for the arrow, you can stick with the arrows you have now, throw a 100 grain insert in it, and figure out what point weight you need to make that thing just fly like a dart, because that's what that boat likes.
All right. Well, Josh, I hope that answers your questions. If you have any more, go ahead. I'll make another post probably next month or whenever we decide to do another archery talk with Haas. And if you have any more questions, you can go ahead and just put them on there, and we'll see if we can answer anything else you got. So let's move to the next question here. The next question is from Ricky Maymorn. And his question is, he says he shoots a Matthews Chiller R Black at 50 pounds. He said he was donated some 350, I'm assuming that's what he means, like 350 arrows. But he thinks he should be shooting 400s instead. Common knowledge, what would you say or suggest for that? I guess what he's wanting to know is, like, what arrow size would you suggest for someone shooting a 50-pound bow of his type?
What did he put his draw length in there by chance?
He did not.
No? Okay. So I'm going to go based off of what the average draw length is. So it's probably going to be somewhere in the 28.5 to 29 inch range. That's the most common. So we'll go off of that. So at a 50-pound bow, he's right. So typically, if you look at any spine chart, it's going to tell you 400 grains, or 400 spine, I'm sorry. But he was donated 350s, which is actually good for him if he wants to follow my theories and my methods on building a proper arrow. Because now that he's gone up in spine, he has more room to add more weight to the front of that arrow, making it heavier, getting that higher FOC without breaking down the spine and making it weak. So he's actually a step ahead. So my recommendation would be the same for him. Depending on what arrow he's shooting, if it's a standard diameter, go get us, we have, like I said, a 100 grain insert, throw it in there, get you a sample pack, shoot them, figure out what weight you need, and you're off to the races. But he's got a benefit of already being a little bit stiff-spined, which is perfect because now he can build an absolute killer.
Well, Ricky, I hope that answers your question a little bit. And like I said, previously, if you have any more questions, just make sure to hit me up on the Devoted Outdoorsman, and we'll make sure we get that on the next podcast and get your questions answered the best we can.
Yeah, and we'll have, you guys can contact me on my Facebook. You guys can get a hold of me through Ethics Archery. You can send us an email there. Just say that you heard us on the Devoted Outdoorsman, and go from there. And one other thing too, I know as, podcasts in the industry, we have a lot of companies out here that are always fighting against each other, which is kind of ridiculous. This is all one big tight-knit family and should be, so we all got to work together. And for those of you guys that really like podcasts, especially, the Devoted Outdoorsman, we get a chance to post these things on Saturdays. But if you're looking for any other ones, you want to be able to find me and find more information, I'm all over the Working Class Bowhunter podcast. Those guys are awesome guys. It's kind of like a campfire feel, like a hunting camp kind of thing. And really good guys, a lot of great information. They have a lot of people on there that have a wealth of knowledge. I'm on there quite a bit as well. As a matter of fact, Ethics Archery, we're a sponsor of them. So when you're done listening to the Devoted Outdoorsman and you get a chance and you're just needing a little bit more archery and a little bit more archery hunting info, go give those guys a look, and tell Kurt and Steve and Eric and all those guys that we sent you over from Devoted Outdoorsman.